Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The office was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. My desk lamp cast a soft glow over the stacks of legal briefs and case files. I was deep in preparation for a trial, the kind of focus that blotted out everything else. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. The number was unfamiliar, a strange mix of dread and curiosity clawing at me. Against my better judgment, I picked up. "Hello." My voice was clipped, professional. "Rachel." The voice was hoarse, weathered yet unmistakable. My grip on the phone tightened. It had been over a decade, but the sound of it still struck a chord. "Dad?" The word left my mouth before I could stop it. "Rachel, I need your help." His tone was shaky, desperate. "I'm in serious trouble. Financial trouble. Please, I just need a little to get back on my feet." I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding. The years of silence, the abandonment, the betrayal. It all came rushing back. My father, the man who had left me to fend for myself, now dared to ask for help. "You're joking," I said, my voice sharp. "After everything, you think you can just call me and ask for money?" "I know I've made mistakes," he stammered, "but I'm trying to make things right. I'm out of options, Rachel, right?" I let out a bitter laugh. "You let Lynette ruin everything. You let her tear me apart, and you did nothing. Now you want me to save you." "Rachel, please." His voice cracked, a feeble attempt to tug at my heartstrings. "You chose her over me," I shot back. "You made your bed. Don't expect me to fix it." There was silence on the other end, heavy and suffocating. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. "I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't erase the past." My voice was ice cold. "Don't call me again." I ended the call and set the phone down, my hand trembling. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. As I stared at the lifeless phone screen, I realized something unsettling. The ghosts of the past were no longer content to stay buried. The call lingered in my mind like a splinter, sharp and unrelenting. I tried to push it aside, but the dam had already cracked, and memories I'd buried long ago came rushing to the surface. I was 9 again, sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, arranging puzzle pieces with Mom. Her laughter, warm and unguarded, filled the room as she teased me about the crooked edges of my work. "You're too impatient, Rachel," she said, handing me a missing piece. "Slow down. The picture will come together if you let it." But then, just as quickly as the memory came, it shattered. Just Mom died, her face blurred, replaced by another. The cold, calculating expression of Lynette, my father's new wife. "You can't leave your mess everywhere." Lynette snapped, her perfectly manicured fingers yanking the puzzle away. "This isn't a playground." "I was going to finish it," I said timidly, watching helplessly as she swept the pieces into the box. "Not in my living room, you're not." I glanced at Dad, hoping for his intervention, but he was buried in the newspaper, his silence louder than her words. The vividness of the memory made my chest tighten. I shook my head, trying to ground myself in the present, but the memories refused to relent. One afternoon after school, I came home to find my room rearranged. My books, my drawings, everything that made it mine, was stuffed into boxes. "What's going on?" I asked, panic rising. "You'll be moving to the guest room," Lynette announced without looking at me. "Why?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "We need space for the baby." I looked at Dad, pleading. "You said I'd always have my room." "It's just a room, Rachel," he said, not meeting my eyes. "You'll adjust." Even now, the sting of that betrayal was as raw as it had been then. I clenched my fists, willing myself to shake it off. "You're stronger now," I whispered to no one in particular. "You've moved past this." But as I stared out the window at the sprawling city, I couldn't help but feel that the wounds had only been waiting for the right moment to bleed again. It was a Thursday afternoon when the bruises first drew attention. I had been hurrying down the school hallway, clutching my math textbook, when Mrs. Freeman stopped me. Her sharp eyes softened as they fell on my wrist, barely concealed by my sleeve. "Rachel, wait," she said, her voice low but firm. I froze, gripping the book tighter as though it could shield me from her concern. "Yes, Mrs. Freeman?" She stepped closer, her gaze darting to my hand. "What happened to your wrist?" I pulled my sleeve down quickly. "Nothing." I bumped into a door. Her silence pressed down on me like a weight. "Doors don't leave marks like that," she said gently. "I'm fine, really." My voice was barely above a whisper. Mrs. Freeman hesitated, then crouched slightly to meet my eyes. "Rachel, if someone is hurting you, you can tell me. It's my job to help." Her words hung in the air, heavy with promise, but my heart raced at the thought of what would happen if I spoke. The night before, Lynette had yanked me by the arm after I'd spilled a glass of milk. "Useless, clumsy girl," she had hissed, her nails digging into my skin. I forced a smile, hoping to mask the fear in my voice. "It's nothing, really." Mrs. Freeman didn't look convinced, but she didn't press further. "If you ever need to talk, my door is always open," she said softly. I nodded and quickly walked away, my throat tight. That evening, I sat on my bed, staring at the faded wallpaper. The weight of the unspoken truth gnawed at me, but the thought of confronting it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. I had no parachute, no safety net. From the next room, I heard Lynette's voice, sharp and grating, as she criticized my father for some minor inconvenience. His response was the same as always, a tired sigh and silence. I pulled my knees to my chest and bit my lip to keep the tears at bay. In the quiet of that moment, I realized the walls of our house were not just physical barriers, but the silent witnesses to a pain no one dared to acknowledge. The knock at the door came just after dinner. I was clearing the plates when Lynette's sharp voice barked, "Get the door, Rachel." My hands trembled as I wiped them on my skirt, wondering who it could be. Visitors were rare in our house, and their presence never boded well for me. When I opened the door, my grandmother stood there, her eyes blazing with a fury I had never seen before. Behind her, the night cast shadows over her sturdy figure, but she looked unwavering, like an immovable force. "Grandma?" My voice cracked with surprise and relief. "I need to speak to your father," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Before I could answer, Lynette appeared behind me, her face tight with disdain. "Why are you here, Margaret?" Grandma's gaze flicked past her to me, softening for a brief moment before hardening again. "I'm here for Rachel. Step aside." "Rachel is fine where she is," Lynette snapped, crossing her arms. Grandma didn't flinch. "Is she?" "I've seen the bruises, Lynette, and I'm not leaving until she's coming with me." Lynette's face twisted in anger. "You can't just barge in here and make demands." My father emerged from the living room, his expression weary as always. "What's going on?" "Arthur," Grandma said, her voice cold. "This stops now. Rachel is coming home with me." He rubbed his temples, avoiding her piercing glare. "Margaret, you don't understand." "What I understand," she cut him off, "is that you've let this woman harm your daughter. You've failed her, Arthur, and I won't stand by any longer." For a moment, silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Then my father muttered, "Take her if that's what you want." Lynette's protests rang out, but Grandma stepped forward and placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "Get your things, Rachel. We're leaving." Tears welled in my eyes as I ran to my room, stuffing a few belongings into my school bag. When I returned, Grandma's hand was still on the doorframe, her stance protective. As we stepped outside, the cool night air hit my face, and for the first time in years, I felt something close to freedom. Grandma squeezed my hand and whispered, "You're safe now, sweetheart. I promise." The funeral was somber, the rain a fitting backdrop for the end of an era. My grandmother's passing left me with an ache that felt insurmountable, but I clung to the lessons she'd imparted: strength, self-worth, and resilience. As I stood by her graveside, I noticed them, my father and Lynette, hovering just beyond the crowd. Their presence wasn't surprising. Vultures always circle when there's something to gain. After the ceremony, they cornered me near the car. Lynette's saccharine smile failed to mask her true intent. "Rachel," she cooed, "you must be so lost without Margaret. We can help you through this." I squared my shoulders. "What do you want, Lynette?" "Now is that any way to speak to your father and me?" she replied, feigning hurt. "We're family after all." My father stepped forward, his tone cautious. "Rachel, about the house. You're young and busy. Managing it will be too much for you. It's better if we—" "It's my home," I interrupted, my voice steady. "Grandma left it to me, and I won't let either of you take it." Lynette's mask slipped, her expression turning venomous. "You ungrateful little—" "Stop." My voice cut through her tirade. This ends here. You don't control me anymore. Grandma made sure of that. From my bag, I pulled out the legal documents Grandma had prepared years ago. You can't touch this house. It's mine, legally and completely. My father's face fell, guilt flickering in his eyes, but Lynette's indignation only grew. You think you're so clever, she spat. You'll regret this. I stepped closer, locking eyes with her. No, Lynette. I regret nothing. Now leave and don't come back. They hesitated, but the finality in my tone left no room for argument. With one last glare, Lynette turned on her heel, dragging my father behind her. As their figures disappeared into the distance, a strange calm settled over me. For the first time, the chains of my past felt broken. I looked back at the house, the rain glistening on its windows like a promise of new beginnings. I whispered to myself, this is my home now, my life, and no one will ever take it from me again.